Good evening, and welcome to tonight's webinar. My name is Captain Retired Dan Pionk, and I'm the Executive Director of the Navy Supply Corps Foundation. And thank you all for joining us tonight for our first webinar of 2024. The Foundation is proud to serve all of One Oakley, but we do need your support. So take a moment now during the webinar or after the webinar and make a donation. Also, consider registering if you're not a member. By registering, it's free, costs nothing, and you receive our quarterly Oak Leaf newsletter as well as our monthly e-newsletter. I'd also like to thank our sponsor, Blue Raven Solutions, CTG, a division of Blue Raven Solutions, for sponsoring this webinar. CTG provides supply parts, material, and management solutions to the Department of Defense, as well as contractors and many of the world's largest airlines. So again, thank you to CTG and Blue Raven Solutions for sponsoring tonight's webinar. It's now my distinct pleasure to introduce tonight's guest speakers. First, the Foundation's Chairman, Eddie Fishburne. So Eddie served over 27 years in the Supply Corps, retiring as a captain, obviously. His tours include 3 afloat tours, XO Supply Corps School, Joint Chiefs of Staff, CO at FistJax, and Surfland Forces Suppo. If you know Eddie, he lets everybody know he's a Notre Dame grad, and his entire family, as far as I can tell. He has an MBA from Michigan State and a master's degree from the ICAF. After retiring in 2001 from the Navy, Eddie served as a vice president of Circuit City stores for about 5 years, and then as an executive at the Home Depot in Atlanta, Georgia, for nearly 20 years. He recently retired just a few months ago, and he and his wife, Mary Ellen, divide their time now between Atlanta and Notre Dame, Indiana. Personally, I had the distinct pleasure of attending Navy Supply Corps School when Eddie was the XO there, and it's really an honor to serve with him again at the Foundation. And interestingly, when Eddie was the XO, collateral duty then was the Executive Director of the Navy Supply Corps Foundation. So funny how things come around. Next, I'd like to introduce Ted Diggs. So Ted is the Foundation's Vice Chairman, and he also served 27 years in the Navy. His tours include the USS Frank Cable in Guam. He was a division chief at U.S. European Command in Stuttgart, Germany, and was also the 4th supply officer in Norfolk. Once Ted retired from the Navy, he was the executive director at the American College of Financial Services for 8 years, where he supported active duty veterans, spouses, basically seeking to jumpstart their second career. Currently, he runs several small companies focused on real estate and digital marketing. And he and his wife, Lisa, reside in Norfolk, Virginia. And Ted has also been a great mentor of mine with his background, especially at the American College Financial Services. But I especially like talking to Ted because he shares a lot of his football stories when he played on that Navy Academy football team. So now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce the Foundation Chairman, Eddie Fishburne. So Eddie, over to you.
Thanks, Dan. Before we get into the agenda, I'd just like to thank Mike Lydon for his leadership, the former chairman, his leadership over the last 4 years. And I really want to thank him for his trust in me and recommending me for this role. And I also want to thank him for his dedication and love of the Supply Corps. I do want you to know that I won't hesitate to reach out to Mike or to his predecessors, Linda, Smoke Hickman, John Kaiser, and a lot of the long-time members of the Supply Corps Board of Directors. I'll be looking for feedback, and I'll be looking for input from many people. So I want to definitely let them know that I'll be reaching out and calling them. Also, before we get on, I want to tell you about Dan. So those of you who don't know Dan's the glue really that holds the Supply Corps Foundation together. Most of us are volunteers. We have a very, very small staff. And Dan is a survivor. And I say that because he's got 10 sisters and 3 brothers, which he's a survivor if he's made it through that, because I'm one of 7, and I know what that's like. Dan, he was a direct commission officer serving in the Navy Reserve for 20 years before being called to active duty for the last 10 years of his Navy career, retiring in 2017. While serving in the reserves, Dan worked for Ernst & Young as a senior manager, providing management consulting and supply chain consulting services to manufacturing consumer product corporations. He was the chairman of the Foundation's Investment Advisory Committee before becoming the executive director And Dan enjoys outdoors. He's a rock climber. He's an ice climber, a kayaker, a windsurfer, a canoeer, backpacker, mountaineer, skier. He lives in the great state of Minnesota. And the reason I said he's a survivor, I worry that he's going to be eaten by a bear one day, you know, when he tells me he's going on one of these excursions. So I think he'll make it because he is a survivor. But I do want to commend Dan and thank him for all he does, because he truly is the glue that holds the foundation together. How about bring up the next slide, Dan? Let's talk about the agenda. Okay, so the agenda of tonight's webinar is simple. We're going to talk about the current state of the foundation. We're going to talk a little bit about how we did in 2023, and then I'm going to give my vision for the future for the foundation over the next couple of years. With that said, I'd like to turn it over to Ted. And full disclosure, Ted's had real bad internet problems today. His whole neighborhood went down, so he's operating off a hotspot. So he may be turning off his camera, or his lips may not sync up with what you hear. So bear with us on that. Ted?
Thanks, Eddie. Yeah, first of all, of course, my whole neighborhood went down today. But so I want to just introduce you to the board of directors here, and you can see that you know we've got, and these are all the volunteers. And there's a couple takeaways, I think, as you look through these names. First of all, we with all the directors, we do a lot more than scholarships. And sometimes when I talk to folks, they have the perception that we're kind of a scholarship foundation. And that's one of the things that Eddie, Dan, and I are really trying to change that. And we're trying to broaden the appeal of the foundation to a larger segment of our constituency, to our community. And some of the areas that we're focused on that we have committees on are transition and heritage, and of course the scholarships. The scholarships are going to be there and they're rock solid, but we really want to expand into the heritage area and the transition. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. There you see some of the different committees that we've got right there. So and the other takeaway is board. And I've worked with boards for the last 10 years. I was executive director of the American College. I had board as well. And what's unique about the board is not only are they all volunteers, they're all high quality and terrific people. They're serving with passion and experience. But the other thing is they actually roll up their sleeves and get a lot of the work done, do the heavy lifting that has to be done in the Support Corps Foundation, because we do have such a small paid staff. And we're going to get to that in a second, but it's worth noting that a lot of the work that's done is through these volunteers on the board. So I just want to thank them and give them a shout out. And by the way, if you look at the slide there's some of them that have asterisks next to them. Those are some of our new board members. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 board members, and so welcome aboard. And Dan, if you take that slide down, the other thing that I'd like to say is we had 5 board members that departed at the end of December, and I just want to give a shout out to them. Allison Cameron, who ran our chapters, Marcus Thomas, who was terrific. He's been with the board for several years. Keith Appleby out of Hawaii, who stepped down after 2 years of serving. Marion Eggenberger, who I know on active duty, is great to reconnect with her. Thank you, Marion. And Adam Gunter, who's now the ED for the Chiefs. It's great to have with active duty and retired folks on the board, and I want to thank them for all they did for the board foundation. Dan, if you bring up the next, it's the foundation is not just about the board; it's also about the chapters, and we've got 39 chapters. We've got 8 big ones, and we'd be remiss if we didn't mention chapters are to us, and we're going to talk a little bit more about in addition to the presidents that are shown here. A lot of these also have other staff, all volunteers, secretary, treasurer, all that, vice president, that kind of thing. So and so we really appreciate all the work that goes in for this network that would set the foundation. And I would also say that there's always room for someone else volunteering and jumping in. So if you're thinking about perhaps contributing some of your time or talent, we reach out to myself, Eddie, Dan. We'd love to have you. Thank you for all our volunteers. Dan, back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. So what makes the foundation run is the incredible staff we have. And so I'd like to introduce the staff. I'm not sure how many people really know who our staff is. We're small. It's myself. I got an assistant, executive assistant, Teresa Hood, and we have a part-time communications director, Tara Neville. And that's it. And they run the foundation. Teresa Hood is the foundation's executive assistant. She handles all the bookkeeping, correspondence, as well as special projects. And she's an absolute pleasure to work with. She's incredible at multitasking and really, more importantly, taking care of our donors and members. Tara Neville is our foundation's communications director, and she works on a part-time basis, but you wouldn't know it because she puts a lot of time, effort, energy, passion into the foundation. If you ever read the foundation's Oak newsletter, then you've seen some of Tara's talents. She also develops our monthly newsletter as well as any external communication from the foundation. And she also supports our chapters with their special communications needs. So the foundation is fortunate to have both Teresa and Tara to run the foundation. And now that you know the foundation staff a little more, I'd like to turn it back over to Eddie to talk about the foundation and our results from 2023. So Eddie, back over to you.
Thanks, Dan. You're going to hear a lot about volunteers. And I urge you, I even challenge you to volunteer either to the national organization or particularly to your local chapter. We need your time, we need your talent, we need your treasure. I'm going to ask you repeatedly to donate. If you haven't donated, I'm asking you to donate. And if you have donated, I'm asking you to dig deeper and donate more if you can. But we need your energy and we need your support. So this chart aligns with our strategic plan and our main strategic goals. In the last year, our strategic goal of strengthening the foundation financially, we had $1.3 million in donations, $270,000 in program support. And I'll let Ted mention what we did with the Honor Our Heritage, Invest in Our Future campaign that we ran in the past year. Ted?
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. Yeah, so over the last 2 years, I shared this capital campaign, Honor Our Heritage, Invest in Our Future. And there's two things that I want to mention. First of all, the reason we did this capital campaign is because we needed typically we needed a capital campaign. You do it for a specific cause, you know, a building or something like that. Ours was unique in that it was to raise unrestricted money, and it's worth mentioning why. Our scholarship funds are rock solid. We are doing very well on the scholarship, but a big chunk of our corpus is restricted money for scholarships, and that put us in a bit of a squeeze where we needed to get unrestricted money to relieve that. And so that's why we had that, and we were able to raise over $1 million in unrestricted money. And so it was successful. We were able to relieve that stress and get that balance back to where it should be. And if you gave to that campaign, thank you. I just want to tell you how much we appreciate that. And also, one of the other things that was important about this campaign is I think it really will jumpstart and reinforce the importance of the annual campaign, which is typically unrestricted money. So we'll have times when we want to raise money for specific projects, and you know those will come up from time to time. But just having the funds to fund our operations and to fund our staff is very important. The other thing, that's the short-term goal. The other long-term goal is our donor base, and this is something that Eddie and I, Dan, we're gonna keep hammering away on, is because even though we have about 30,000 members, that folks that have worn the oak leaf that are members of the foundation, we really only have a donor base of about 500. We call them the 500 faithful, and that's how we get. And those 500 faithful are getting older, and it's like the iceberg warm water. So it's not an existential threat right now, but we need to expand our donors. We need a broader support network of small donors coupled with some who want to make meaningful gifts. And so right now, we've got about only 1.5% of our community donating. So the potential is huge, and it wouldn't take a lot to move that needle. And so one of the things we want to do is reach out to our community create a value proposition for a broader segment of our community. And with not only the individuals and also with corporate partners, and expand into areas that are important to them.
Okay. Also in 23, we implemented a new website. We've had great feedback on the new website so far. Just recently went live. And I want to mention that we did that. One of our new board members is a former Supply Corps officer, Tom Elliott. And Tom has a specific skill set in this field of endeavor. And he reached out to us and he volunteered his services, and he's really done a great job implementing this for us. And again, he's a perfect example of a former Supply Corps officer. He was not a career Supply Corps officer. His career was cut short, and he reached out and he just told me he wanted to help. He wanted to donate his talent, and he's helped us greatly with this, with his expertise. The feedback has been great, and it will get better as we go forward. One of the things that's good about the new website is it's a little more nimble, and we'll be able to make changes as we get feedback. We've already made changes, and I want to thank Tom specifically for what he's done with that. And also, in the past year, we developed and wrote a new strategic plan. You can see it on the website. We don't need to go through it tonight, obviously. That would be a little painful, but please feel free to go on the website and look at it. Marian Eggenberger led that effort, and again, I want to thank her for what she did on that. Foundation awareness. In the past year, we hosted 6 webinars with over 600 attendees. They have really been a popular addition to what we've done. This is one of the things that actually is a positive that came out of being able to work virtually. These webinars were very well attended. We've gotten great feedback, and from the feedback, I believe that we'll be doing more, and we're going to continue to enhance that program as we go forward with additional webinars. We've got several planned in the near future, and we'll be adding to that. Finally, we want to grow our core. Yeah, go ahead.
If I just jump in, one other thing that we did this last year in increasing the foundation awareness is that all the Supply Corps birthday balls, we had as much as we could. We had someone from the foundation there, and we had a video, a foundation video, and we said a few remarks to really integrate the foundation more with the chapter. That was another effort that we had, and we're going to continue that in the future with the birthday balls. Back to you.
Okay, thanks. And as far as our core programs, Ted did mention the scholarship program. One of the things that surprised me about we need more applicants for the scholarship program. You're only allowed to award scholarships to 49% of the applicants, and frankly, we can give more scholarships if we get more applicants. So spread the word. Let's get those applicants coming in. I know there's a lot of qualified applicants out there, so let's spread the word and continue to grow our base on that. We also selected 2 new distinguished alumni, Daniel Danello and Donna Serwanka. They'll be inducted as distinguished alumni this coming ball season. Actually, Dan in the Mechanicsburg ball, and Donna will be inducted at Navy Supply Corps School at an event up there prior to on the day of their ball in a separate event. So looking forward to that. Based on feedback, we also have made a decision to pilot a career transition seminar. Now, in the past, we've done webinars that we called transition seminars, but they were really more info sessions. And we talked about various careers, and they've been very successful. We got good feedback and very positive. We had volunteers who spoke on various industries from various backgrounds, but we've had a lot of requests for something more. So we have decided we'll be talking more about that on a later slide, but we will be piloting a leadership transition seminar this coming summer, and it's going to be designed for people who serve, whether you serve 4 years or 40 years. It's going to be applicable to both, and I'm looking forward to that. All right, let's move on, Dan. Okay. So who makes up the foundation? surprisingly, a lot of people don't realize they're members of the foundation. Anyone who ever wore the oak leaf is a member of the foundation. One of the things I always like to ask at these balls is raise your hand if you're a member of the Supply Corps Foundation. And a lot of people don't even raise their hand, although they are members. But anyone who has ever worn the oak leaf, whether you served multiple years, a few years, and if you're still a member of the Supply Corps Foundation when you get out. So I really want to emphasize this donor base that Ted talked about. It's absolutely surprising, and actually it's sad to me that we don't have a better, a more dedicated donor base. We have to start building that muscle memory of donation early in the career. So our value proposition, we want to move beyond scholarships. As we said, our scholarship base, our endowment is rock solid. The two additional impact areas that we're going to work on are transition assistance and our heritage programs. And these two areas go to the core of what we do for our active duty reservists and retirees. And they're areas of great interest. We get feedback on them, and we're going to try to drive those programs and make them better and bring life to them as well. Dan, you want to talk a little bit about the transition assistance program?
Yeah, sure, Eddie. So as Eddie mentioned, I mean, we see that as the next big program. There's just huge potential. Ted mentioned about the webinars. We had 6 last year. We've got webinars planned every month this year. So next month we have Admiral Epps, Chief of Supply Corps. Following that, we have Erica Plack, who's the Undersecretary of Defense for Sustainment. April, we have Admiral Mike Mullins, retired Commander, Joint Chiefs of Staff. And then in June, we're going to have Admiral Palachuk and his team from Operation Warp Speed. That's just a highlighter. Every month we have the webinars, and we really see the value in that. But as Eddie mentioned, that's more information. The one thing we're really excited about is the Career Transition Leadership Seminar. And we're going to pilot in June, probably be in Norfolk, more to follow on that. But what that is modeled after the Honor Foundation. The Honor Foundation has, for Special Forces, all Special Forces, obviously you can understand the challenge of transitioning from a Special Forces into the private sector. I looked at the Honor Foundation a few years ago, looking to set up a career transitions center of excellence, and that's when I came across the leadership seminar. So we basically are working to. It's going to be the same program that the Honor Foundation uses, very similar, and so we're very excited about that. It's very professionally, very well done, and as Eddie mentioned, we're going to open up and put people in the seats, and our goal is to have 2 or 3 of these a year. So the first pilot will be in June, and beyond that, looking at 2 to 3 a year in fleet concentration centers. And that's really going to put, I think, the foundation on the map as far as really tangible services beyond scholarships that we can reach out to all our members. And Eddie mentioned value proposition. I mean, that's the challenge, the value proposition, because depending where you're at in your career or post-career, you have a different, there's a different value proposition. And so this is really going to help, like I said, with your 4 years or 40 years, like Eddie mentioned, and really, really excited about it. So more to follow. We'll put out information as we get it, but really excited about that. So thanks, Eddie, for letting me share that.
And by the way, I'd like to add, just like with the website, we're tapping into the talents of a former Supply Corps officer, retired Captain Jeff Pottinger, who's passionate about military transition. And Jeff has devised and proposed a very specific, tailored transition seminar for the Supply Corps. And I'm looking forward to implementing that and offering that to our officers who are transitioning at whatever stage of their career. But again, that's another example of somebody who's dedicated to the Supply Corps wanting to give back. Tom Elliott, Jeff Pottinger, and many more out there, just like a lot of our board members. Ted, you want to talk a little bit about your idea on Supply Corps operations?
Yeah, so just to put a little finer point on the webinar series, just so everyone knows how we've kind of structured this. We've kind of ranked the topics that we want to cover into 3 piles. One of them are transition assistance, and Dan's talked about that, and in addition to the transition program that we're launching, we're going to continue to have panels that are going to support and inform folks that are transitioning. A second area that we're going to do is what we call supply core operations, and by the way, this webinar falls into that category. We're also going to have, as Dan mentioned, Admiral Epps, the chief, is going to give an update, and that's supply core operations. We're also going to have Chef Irvine, who's been a supporter, a financial supporter, and he's been very involved. He talked at a couple of our supply core birthday balls last year. We'd like to get a webinar with him as well, talk about some of the things that are going on in food service and in the DoD and military. So that's kind of the second bucket or second pile. And the third pile is going to be focused on our heritage. And I want to turn it back over to Eddie so we can talk about some of the things we're doing in the webinar series to emphasize our heritage.
Okay, thanks, Ted. By the way, we're going to definitely tap into our distinguished alumni base for webinars as well. I think there's some very, very pertinent topics that they can share with our membership. Okay, so this area Ted mentioned is our supply core heritage. I guess everybody realizes by now that the museum in Athens is gone, obviously, but we need to maintain and honor our legacy. We have a heritage committee, and we're engaging in several projects. And you're going to hear about these over the course of the next several years, probably. USS Midway has a huge project in San Diego. The National Navy Museum is coming to fruition. Navy Supply Corps School has a lot of the memorabilia, not all of it, but a lot of things that we had in the museum in Athens, but it's not a full museum. It has some great displays, and it's very good. If you haven't been up there and get a chance to, I urge you to go up and see it. And we have some displays on museum ships. All of this costs money. We're going to engage our distinguished alumni. We're hoping to get some donations to endow some of these projects, and we're looking for volunteers to work on these projects. But we're going to need to raise funds for some of these specific projects, because these are going to be things we're going to take on over and above what we're doing every year with scholarships and just sustaining the organization. So hopefully we'll be able, one of the goals was to get out there and get some foundation support from additional foundations and some corporate support. So we'll be trying to do that over the course of the years. But anyone with ideas, we're looking for feedback, we're looking for input, for those with suggestions and contacts that can help us gain support, gain donations, and earn some endowment support from corporations and also additional foundations. Foundations are tougher because you have to, writing the foundation grants it's a very difficult business. You have to really fit their niche as to what they want to support. But I will tell you, corporate support they want to know the number of people that you're reaching with your programs. So we have such a large base. I think it's a really good aspect of what we do, that we can reach out to so many people. I believe we can garner some commercial support from corporations. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Dan, talk a little bit about the birthday balls coming up.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. So at each birthday ball, we work with the chapter presidents at each location, and really appreciate their support. They're doing an outstanding job at the local level. And the chapters are the face of the foundation and extremely important to our mission and help us achieve our mission. So we really appreciate the support that the chapter presidents do give us. But I believe there's 8 chapter balls this year, and we've got a board member, foundation member, who's just a couple minutes is going to say a few remarks on behalf of the foundation, and also connect the attendees at the ball with the foundation. And we also, in addition to that, we provide support to the chapters, posters at the balls, and welcome cards with QR codes to help them. But it's really worked out really well last year, really successful. Again, can't thank the chapter presidents enough for that. And again, we're on track this year to do the same thing. So it's a teamwork, team effort. We really enjoy working with the chapter presidents. They're all volunteers too, and all of them have full-time jobs, mostly all in the military, which, we all been there. It's not easy. It's hard, hard day's work, but they all find time to help carry on our mission. And our job and our goal is to continue to support them and provide more support as best we can to the chapters. But if you haven't got the information on the birthday balls, let me know, send me a note. I'll forward on to you. They're, we've all been to balls, or most of us, and they're really exciting. So I encourage you to attend these balls and support the foundation at the ball and the chapter. So thanks, Dave, for letting me share that with everybody.
Ted, do you want to cover the chapter?
If I could, just a couple comments about the chapters. The chapters are incredibly important to the foundation. And I called, and for the couple years I've been on the board, I've come to realize, or I realize even more, that they really are the center of gravity of the foundation. And as a former president of the Hampton Roads, I recognize how great the different activities, the birthday balls, the golf tournaments, the OP Road Show, the happy hours, how important that is to connect our community and build that esprit de corps, build that camaraderie, build that culture that we all love within the Supply Corps, and also build those networking skills that is a trademark of our community. That's all happens at the chapter level. And so that really is important. And so one of the things that we want to do is all that great stuff that's going on in the chapter, we just want to help align them a little bit more with the foundation. And so some of the things we've talked about, engaging in the birthday balls and some of the other things. So that's one of the things we're really want to do over the coming year and years is aligning them a little bit tighter with the foundation. So it's an organization. We've got a new board member, John Steen, who's going to head up the chapter relations, and he's got some terrific ideas on how to do that. So I look forward to hear more about that over the coming year. Back to you, Dan.
Dan, I'm going to close with outlining the next couple of years, what we're looking at doing. Okay. As I said, you're going to hear me talk a lot about expanding the donor base. I learned a long time ago in my various careers, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. Well, my main thing is going to be trying to grow this donor base. I think it's actually criminal that we have so few consistent donors. Again, I'm asking everybody on this call, I want you to reach out to your network. Everybody has a network. Call 5 of your friends who you haven't talked to for a while. Remind them about the Supply Corps. Remind them about the foundation. Remind them that they're members, and ask them to donate. I will tell you, one of the things that I experienced, I had not been involved in the foundation for several years when I was asked to join the board again. And one of the things I did when I came back was I started reaching out to a lot of my Supply Corps friends, many of whom were not even didn't make a career in the Supply Corps. And I asked them, and some of you received these emails from me, some of you on this call received the email, and I asked people to donate. And you know what? A lot of them donated. And even a lot of the ones who didn't make the Supply Corps career donated. Actually, they were some of the better donors. So I'm asking everybody to use your network. This is a team effort. Supply Corps is the greatest team I've ever been a part of. It shaped my life, and I know it shaped your lives, whether you stayed in for a few years or you're still on active duty. And those of you who are new, young Supply Corps officers, you will see how the Supply Corps experience and what you learned at Supply Corps school and in the fleet will actually serve you as you move off into your next career. So I'm asking everybody to reach out, use your network, and ask your network to ask their network, because we can do better than what we're doing. We've got to build that muscle memory and get people to be engaged and to donate. The camaraderie of the Supply Corps is the greatest thing I experienced in my career. And I look back and I smile when I think about my time at Supply Corps school and my friends from the Supply Corps and those that influenced me most, some of whom are on this call today. We also want to expand and mobilize our base of volunteers. And again, I said, we will take your feedback, and everybody can't donate all their time and effort. But if you have something that you'd like to see us do, give us feedback, connect with us. You can volunteer to work with the national board, but also we really need help in the chapters, because of course the chapters have people that are engaged, but they're deploying. There's a lot of turnover. So at the chapter level, we always need more volunteers. So we're asking for people to reach out, connect with your chapter. When you change duty stations, immediately meet with your new chapter and see what you can do to donate time or effort or your treasures to them. Communication. You've heard a little bit about the Oak Leaf. The Oak Leaf is a really good communication tool. We also do a lot of e-blasts, and I've seen great feedback on some of the recent e-blasts that we've done. So again, please engage, register with the Supply Corps Foundation on the website so we know your contact information, your mailing address, your email address, so we can contact you. And you'll receive the e-blast. You can receive the Oak Leaf, whether you get a hard copy or the online version. It's a great tool, and a great effort goes into putting that together. And then finally, one of the things we really want to see, we've chosen to pilot this transition program. I believe that it'll be a really, really useful tool for our transitioning service members. And if this works as well as we think it will, the idea is to expand it, as Dan said, and offer it several times a year. So with that said, I'd like to turn it back over to Dan to close out. I want to thank you all for your time, and I really appreciate you tuning in tonight, and looking forward to hearing from you and hopefully seeing many of you. Thank you. Dan?
Yeah, thanks, Eddie, and thanks, Ted, too, for your comments and your input tonight. Really great job. Also want to thank CTG Division Blue Raven Solutions for sponsoring tonight's webinar. We can't do it without you, so thank you for that. That concludes tonight's webinar. We'll be sending out the recording, the slides in a couple of days. Again, I want to special thank our two special guests, Chairman Eddie Fishburne and Vice Chairman Ted Diggs for their input and comments tonight. And again, we heard tonight a lot. We do need your support. I always say every dollar helps sustain the foundation. So please consider donating, registering as well. It's very important. And also follow us on social media, especially LinkedIn. We push a lot of information out there, and you can stay connected to the Supply Corps community. So with that, we appreciate you staying with us tonight. Have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar in February. Have a great evening, everybody.